Hello, this is Anthony Lamble with my informative speech too. Today I'm going to speak about the common boa, also known as the red-tailed boa. To start off, we're going to talk about the background. They are found in a tropical climate in Central America. Their primary name was the Colombian boa, so they originate from Colombia actually. Uh, for pets, like the one I have, they're generally bred in captivity, although they are very common in the wild. That's why they're also known as the common boa. So they're bred in captivity. This helps them be better adjusted when you do get them as a pet, because you wouldn't want to take one straight out of the wild and put it in a tank at your home, because it could have parasites or issues like that, or just not really adapt very well. They're a pretty large snake. As a baby, they're generally roughly 12 to 16 inches, which is, a foot and a half, which is kind of alarming, but they get up to 8 to 12 feet, which is ginormous, huge, big snakes. Males generally range from 6 to 8 feet, and females from 8 to 12 feet. So the females are generally larger than the males. They're in the boa constrictor family. So the way they subdue their prey before they eat it is they constrict it. So they would strike, wrap their body around it, and then asphyxiate it or choke it to death, which is kind of gruesome. But that's just the way that they eat, considering they do not have any venom. Now, getting back to the pet area, we're going to talk about care when having them in your home. They need kept in a humid environment. So their natural environment's approximately 65 to 85% humidity, which is really high. So you generally have to mist their tank or have some sort of humidifier to make sure that they're getting that humidity so they can shed their skin correctly. They're fed generally one rodent per week until they get full adult size, and then they eat every 10 days to 2 weeks. That's just so they don't become overweight. They generally eat rodents like mice and stuff like that. As they get older, you have to feed them rabbits and stuff like that. Generally, you do it frozen thawed because you wouldn't want to take a wild animal and feed it to your snake. It's kind of inhumane. But the way that works is wherever you put your feeding animals from, they're frozen, and you just have to thaw them at home and then feed them to your animals. They need fresh water in a clean enclosure, just like any other being, like humans or any other pets. So you're supposed to replace their water once a day, once every couple days, completely clean out their water bowl and make sure that the water's sanitary and clean. And the clean enclosure once a month, so you completely remove all the bedding, because they generally have an aspen bedding, which is just like shredded wood or paper or something like that. But you have to clean that all out and make sure there's no feces or anything like that in their cage, and make sure you spray it out so they're living in a nice clean environment. They need to be handled often as well, so you need to pick them up and hold them and have them out of their tank and stuff like that, so you would avoid any aggression issues when it comes to them being full size, like an 8 to 12 foot snake. You wouldn't want an aggressive snake, because then you'd just be able to look at it. You'd be no point in really having it as a pet. Their behavior, which is my next topic, is mostly sedentary. As a juvenile or a young animal, they're a little bit more active. They're a little bit more striky, so they tend to get a little bit more defensive. But as they grow up and get used to being handled, that all generally goes away if you do it the right way. They're aggressive eaters generally. Mine personally is not. It takes him a minute to eat his food, but for most of the species, you generally just put the rodent in there, and immediately they'll latch on and eat it within probably 10 to 15 minutes, completely done. So that's just nice. You won't have to sit there and just watch them try to eat an animal, which is kind of crazy. The way they look is that they're red-tailed, which hence the name red-tailed boa, in gray or dark gray graphite in color. They come in different morphs, so that just means they're shade generally. So you can get an albino one. They're a lot more expensive than the regular ones. Different shades of gray, stuff like that. Just depends how they're born generally. So the ones that are not regular morphs or skin colors, they're generally more expensive, but primarily they are gray in color and have a maroonish dark red tail, which is they're pretty nice to look at. They're docile when introduced to people at a young age and frequently handled. So, like I said earlier, if you handle them a lot as a child or as a juvenile, when they get older, you will not have any issues at all with them, being aggressive or anything like that, unless, a situation arises where they would get scared or an instance like that. Well, that's generally all I have. That was the red-tailed boa. They're a really common pet to have in the boa constrictor family. They're from Central America. They don't require a whole lot of care. Just got to make sure to keep them clean, fed, and watered. Just make sure they stay nice and healthy. They're mostly sedentary snakes. Nice to handle, easy to take care of. A really great pet to have. So thank you so much for watching my speech, and have a great evening.